It's lovely to be here, and yeah, I'm just slightly distracted because we hope to have a slideshow, which
our technical wizard,
our lovely technical wizard, is working on it right this minute, but we may not have the actual pictures. But we do have, it's going to be very well illustrated by the Red River Singers. And I've got some carol books, so you're really welcome to join in on the carols with us.
we really want you to join in, so please do, don't feel shy about it.
So, yeah, this is a talk. We're just going to give a bit of a talk about this book that Sally and I did in 2017.
Long time ago.
Yeah. The Hark, the glad sound of Cornish carols. Yeah, so we wanted to capture all across Cornwall where people are singing these traditional Cornish carols. We knew of some places, but in our travels we found more, and yeah, it was an amazing adventure. So for a whole year, actually it took 2 Christmases, we couldn't fit everybody in one Christmas. So over a period of 2 years, we travelled all around Cornwall and viewed up in the north, right down to the Penwith and to the Lizard.
And Calstock.
And East Cornwall. Don't forget Calstock, because that's where I come from. So that's perfect for me to explain a little bit about myself. So I'm Hilary Coleman. I grew up in Calstock and in the Tamar Valley, and I knew one carol that I knew was Cornish, and it was Lingham, While Shepherds Watched. My mum and dad loved to sing, and so we also always went out carol singing around the village, and I absolutely loved it. But they were the ordinary, well-known carol songs, carol tunes, songs known all over Britain, except for While Shepherds Watched. And it wasn't. Gradually, I moved further west over the years and ended up in Camberwell and Redruth, and discovered there was this whole, wealth of wonderful Cornish carols. And so in about 1998, I think, I started to get together with some friends in our village, and we started to sing the Cornish carols then. And it's never stopped because, there's still many that we don't know, and we know a good 30 odd, don't we? Something like that. So yeah, there's a lot to go. Anyway, so that's me, and I'll hand over to Sally.
Well, I'm Sally Burley. I grew up in Boscastle, but my father's family are from St Day, and come Christmas every year, Dad would go home to swap cards and presents and, say hello to the family, and he would always time that for when the St Day boys were out singing carols. And I have very early memories of it being dark and cold and getting my coat on and going out from my Auntie Paula's house, holding my dad's hand and going out and listening to these carols, and not just hearing them, but you could feel those bass voices in your stomach. Just amazing. I think that's where my love of singing generally came from, but definitely my love of Cornish carols. So I'm slightly luckier than Hilary in some respects, because I was aware that there were those amazing Cornish carols, not just Lingham, but others as well. Oh, and when I was at primary school in Boscastle, we learnt the usual tranche of British carols, including, I cringe when I say this, Sam's Day Carol. I went home and said to my father what we'd learnt in school that day, and he nearly had apoplexy. It's the St Day Carol. From that moment on, it is the St Day Carol, and I'm sure you probably all know why.
So what we decided to do with the book was to split it into 4 sections. What we're going to talk about now is the excerpts from the book itself. The 4 categories were what we call early carols, and that's Sally's just mentioned St Day. St Day is a typical example. The holly bears a berry, very typical of an early carol. The other category we have in the book is what's called what we call wassails and feasts. So as you probably know, tomorrow night is solstice, and down in Penzance they have Montol. So that's an example, exactly, Montol. So that was another section. We chose, while Shepherd's Watch had its section all to itself, because there are just so many of them. Oh, actually, you could, once we've now got the slides working, we can actually...
Could any of you make a guess as to how many versions of While Shepherd's Watch might be sung in Cornwall? I mean, you probably all think of the Lingham version, and then there's the standard sort of C of E version. Can anybody know of any other?
Yes, 5.
You reckon 5? Any advance on 5?
7.
Way, 7. Do any of you know of any besides those 2? Oh, you're in for a treat.
So our count was 34 just in Cornwall alone.
And there's probably more than that.
So we know, well, we've seen 2, but obviously on our travels we recorded at least 4 or 5 more, and then I knew more in the books and other people. So this is me and Sally down in Falmouth, where the Dogs Choir sings on Christmas Eve. We've just finished, and there's a bit of a melee, but it gives you a bit of an idea of us on our travels.
That's a brilliant event. If it's still going post-COVID, that's really worth going to.
It is, yeah, it's
Good.
happening, yeah.
Good.
This is a map from the book which showed where we went. We went to pubs, we went outdoors, we went to concerts and services, and we went to rehearsals. That's all right. So I don't know if you can see, it's a little bit far away, but as I said, we covered most of Cornwall. I don't know if you can see, but actually in Campbell Redruth area, there was a real concentration. There was that, and that area is a really strong cow tradition. So I apologise that there's a gap where Newquay is. We weren't aware of anybody singing, apart from the Newquay Road Club singers, who probably do know a lot of the same carols.
We have sung, I was going to say, Hilary, we have given the Newquay Choral Society gave at least one dedicated concert in the last 10, 15 years dedicated to Cornish carols.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
Oh,
so we were
excellent.
singing Brawl, we were singing Merritt,
Yes.
we were singing Lingham.
Oh,
and so
wish
forth.
we'd
So
come
we
and
did do
recorded
that.
Wish we'd come and recorded you. But there was a limit. But anyway, as you can see, it's a real broad cross-section of places. Yeah, could you move on again, Terry? Now this is an example of one of the very early carols I was saying about in the Crescent Kerno in Redruth. There's an incredibly beautiful old chapbook, and this is, you probably can't see, but it's actually, what's it called? A Virgin Most Pure.
Yes.
Isn't it beautiful? I just think it's the most beautiful writing. Really lovely copy plate. So that's the example, an early carol. And here's some of the old books, which we get a lot of the information from, as well as going to visit people. So one on the top left, there's Barnacle, and that is from Tregony area. And then you've got Heath, who's from Redruth. On the right is Warmington, he's from Carbis Bay. The ones on the bottom left are particularly my favourite because they were little songbooks just with words, just like what I've been giving out, but half the size. And they had 147 carols in them, and they were all Redruth. And then the one in the middle, well, the two in the middle at the bottom are from Australia. So we've even got a mention in the book about the Australian carols. And then in the far bottom right is the Merritt carols, which I'm sure, if you know anything to do with Cornish carols, I'm sure you'll know about Merritt. Okay, so what more we think? Aha! So, what we'd like to do is, our final section that I haven't mentioned was called Carol Hymns. And they're the ones that you probably know and love, the Merritt carols, and some of the ones I was showing there. People sing all, and not just in churches and chapels, but they'd be outside singing. It was a very common thing for people to sing, go carolling. And I'm going to just read you a wonderful quote from the West Briton of 1889. Carol singing this season promises to be well to the fore. Bands of young men, sometimes known by the not too euphonious sobriquet of hedge choirs, have been promenading the streets, singing the time-honoured carols in a more or less melodious manner. I love the name hedge choirs. It's wonderful. So what we thought we'd do is, this is one place where a lot of caroling happens even now, and that's St Ives. It's a great gang of people. And to honour St Ives, Terry, you're going to read us the carol choir by one of St Ives' famous poets, Johnny Barber, who also wrote songs too. You like that?
Yeah. The Carol Choir, Down Long Round, Christmas Eve by John T. Barber. We joined the 4th Street Carol Choir. The night was crisp and clear. Then started off at Virgin Street with Cully's Hellasveer. Handsome it was, and no mistake. The great bass, deep and rich. The altos and the tenors too were good and true to pitch. One dear old chap there standing by said, "Well, I must confess, it's like an organ, yes it is, an organ, nothing less." We worked the Digi through Love Lane, it still continued dry, did Bunkers Hill and Bailey's Lane, and then on to Chye and Chye. Past Doble's Wall, up on Dick's Hill, still singing clear and sweet. Turned right at the top of Island Square, next stop, Teetotal Street. Our voices now were rather hoarse, the clarinet had gone flat, so all agreed to do Carn Crows and leave it go at that.